Andreas Vesalius, the founder of modern anatomy. Andreas Vesalius wrote De Humani Corporis Fabrica in 1540 during the Renaissance on his findings of the human body. Before Vesalius, anatomy was based off of Galen's finding on apes, but Vesalius became the founder of modern anatomy as he explored the human body through dissection, encountering flaws in Galen's theory and exchanging ideas in the medical world, paving the way for a medical revolution with remaining effects on society today.
Born in Brussels, Belgium, Vesalius was born to a family of doctors. His father and grandfather served the Holy Roman Emperor. Originally, Vesalius began to study medicine in Paris, but then transferred to the University of Louvain when France declared war. From there, he moved to the University of Padua to acquire his doctorate on December 6, 1537. The next day, he was appointed as chair of surgery and anatomy at Padua, the job of lecturing about anatomy the day after receiving his degree. Vesalius then set off on his mission to give a detailed description on the human body. For 1500 years before Vesalius, Galen dominated the study of anatomy. He began to study medicine when his father had a dream that he should follow this path. So he spent 12 years studying ancient medicine in the Mediterranean region. When he first began, Galen worked as a surgeon for gladiators, saying that he could get a glimpse of the inside of the human. With his students, he believed that they should look at the human skeleton with their own eyes, but he did not use human bodies due to religious reasons. So he based human anatomy off his work with monkeys, pigs, and dogs. His drawings are not very detailed or accurate, but they showed Galen's thoughts. He published his book, a contribution between himself and Hippocrates, about his works. Born April 15, 1452, Leonardo da Vinci became the first man to dissect the human body. Leonardo da Vinci began in 1506 when he dissected the cadaver of a deceased 100-year-old man. Previous to this, da Vinci used animals, oxen, horses, bears, and birds, but these showed no similarities to the human body. By the time of 1511, he had dissected about 30 corpses, gaining a deep understanding of the interior of the human. He took tedious notes and made drawings of his findings, taking note of everything he came across. He made drawings of the heart, a fetus in the womb, the skull, the muscles in the arms and legs, the rib cage, and the spine. But these were lost for centuries, unpublished and lost. His drawings were given to his friend Francesco Melzi. When he died, his drawings were taken by his heirs, who had no care for them, and sold them. They were not recuperated until 1630 by Pompeo Leone. 21 years after the death of Leonardo da Vinci, while visiting the University of Bologna in January 1540, Vesalius dissected his first cadaver. Vesalius obtained the body of a criminal who received the death penalty from a judge who was interested in his work. It was against his religion to dissect the human, but Vesalius was simply too curious. From this single dissection, Vesalius began to question the works of Galen. He realized pretty early on in his career that human anatomy was different to animal anatomy. He proved Galen wrong on many different occasions. The first thing Vesalius proved wrong was the lower jaw. According to an interview conducted with the European medical artist Pascal Collier-Green, the lower mandible in human skull was one piece of bone. Galen's theory, based on animal dissection, said it was two. This is why you see the drawing of the human skull resting on the dog skull among the beautiful illustrations of Vesalius' anatomy books, the Fabrica.
The traditional methods of dissection was pretty complicated. A teacher would read from Galenic texts, a surgeon would do the actual dissection, and a demonstrator would point at the parts being emphasized. But Vesalius did not agree with the traditional method. In his words, he should carry out dissections himself, and not miss out on anything, rather than just watch someone else do it for him. Vesalius would carry out his dissections in front of about 500 anatomy students in an auditorium with the help of nobody. It was evident that Vesalius was very skilled at what he did. He was capable of demonstrating the difference in skin layers, and the arm being how hard it was. He would burn off the outer parts because it burned easily, and the inner skin remained. To explain his works, Vesalius published De Humani Corporis Fabrica in 1543 with over 500 photos in total. The book explained his findings on the human skeleton, arterial systems, nervous systems, and muscles. The Fabrica is compromised of musclemen used to show what Vesalius found. The artwork featured is a combination of the works of Titian, Jan Stefan van Hoekhaar, and himself. To make his works easier to explain, Vesalius would compare anatomical structures to rather common objects: the radius to the Weaver shuttle, and the mitral valve to the bishop's mitre. There were various different views on the works of Vesalius as well. One review of the Fabrica called it admired, studied, followed, and pondered. Even Vesalius's instructor, Johann Ginter von Andernach, had a great view of Vesalius when he said, "Vesalius is a young man of great promise, possessing an extraordinary knowledge of medicine, proficient in Latin and Greek, and very skilled in dissection of bodies." His other former teacher, Jacobus Sylvius, had a negative perspective about Vesalius and called him insolent and ignorant slanderer, who treacherously attacked his teachers with violent mendacity and time again distorted the truth of nature. To get his human subjects to study, Vesalius was not always able to acquire them from judges. Vesalius and other anatomists of the time that thought similar to him would enter the gallows at the mounds of Mount Falcon, a public execution place where criminals were hanged. The anatomist would brave watchdog just to obtain half-decomposed bodies to dissect. Vesalius not only found out new things that were not known, but he corrected things that were thought to be true. One thing was the Galenic belief that the routine use of bloodletting was therapy, but it's not. Also the belief that males had one less rib than females because of the belief that Adam gave a rib to Eve. But Vesalius was set off to change what was known about Galen and emphasize things as true. An example is the exaggerated upward extension of the rectus abdominis muscle in the fifth muscle mass. Vesalius made it like that purposely to try and show the error in Galen's work. The good outcomes came from the works of Vesalius as well. The greatest one is surgery. It was Vesalius's greatest belief that surgery had to be grounded in anatomy, and his work makes the belief concrete. In an interview conducted with author and medical doctor Adam Blattner, he reflected on Vesalius's motivation for his research on the human subject. "My interpretation is that there was the growing awareness that classical authority was not always right. This was an intellectual revolution and something that characterized what came to be called the Renaissance, or rebirth."
300 years after Vesalius stopped dissecting, midnight men arose. They originated because of supply-demand for bodies used for medical dissection. These men would enter graveyards, dig up the bodies of the recently deceased, and haul them away, forgotten. They would then be used for anatomical dissection. The most famous midnight men were William Hare and William Burke. It is believed that they sold each body for up to £100, or $140 present day. They ended their robbery when Hare turned in Burke, who was killed and dissected. It wasn't until the Anatomy Act of 1832 that all grave robbery was ended, and research was only limited to the cadavers of criminals and unclaimed people. In 2001, an illegal trade continued on in China, not with cadavers, but the illegal trade of organs. In 1984, a rule was made to allow for the organs of criminals who received the death penalty to become available for the transplant, but the numbers didn't add up. There was a major drop in the number of deceased criminals and the major uprise of the organ trade. It got to the point where criminals were examined to see if they had organs that would work, and the point where citizens had their organs removed. But Nancy Sufferhuge introduced the Organs Watch at the University of California, Berkeley to look over the trade of organs.